Are the Death Riders killing AEW? It's a fascinating question. Short answer, no. I think AEW is live and well. Long answer, well, let's get into it. The ratings are dipping. People are criticizing. People are not enjoying anything the Death Riders are involved in. So let's talk about why. Where they're going wrong, where they can improve. Let's see if we can figure out some of these issues. The most glaring issue to me, the AEW World Championship is hidden from television. I'm not a fan of it being hidden in a briefcase. You should have the World Championship, whether it's around your waist, on your shoulder, whatever it should be present on television. Think of the casual fan. The casual fan may be flipping channels. I know it doesn't quite exist in 2025 of flipping channels, but let's just say there's somebody watching your product for the first time. Whether that's a clip on social media or they did happen to stumble on the channel. They should be able to identify who the world champion is. They shouldn't be hidden in a briefcase. It shouldn't need the explanation. It should be clear. You should be proud to be the champion. You should be proud to be the man. I don't understand why Moxley has been hiding the championship within the briefcase. That makes no sense to me. Where that doesn't make any sense either, the other Death Riders are champions. They're trios champions. They're carrying the titles. Why aren't they in briefcases? Somewhat of a disconnect for me. Why is Moxley's title hidden but theirs is present? I don't really get that. I think originally they had put this group together with the plan to create controversy, but they didn't have the end goal in sight. That's fine. Not every story, when it started, do you need to have the end goal in sight, right? Especially if it's going to span over many months, many years. It would be ideal, but not everything can have the end goal. Some things you pivot, you adjust, you react to the crowd, whatever. No problem there. I just think the expectations were set so high when Moxley was coming out with the promos saying things like, this isn't your AEW anymore. He was just kind of creating the illusion that there was somebody else coming in. Obviously, at the time, fans speculated it would be Shane McMahon. Certainly doesn't look like the case, right? I don't think Shane McMahon's coming in and he's the secret leader of the Death Riders. That's unlikely. I think the problem with the AEW World Championship right now falls here. Booking. I know, that's kind of a cop-out answer, but it is the booking. Because look at Revolution, for example. We had Cope versus Mox. Maybe a dream match by some people's standards. Certainly for mine. I was very excited for this match. The story ahead of time definitely had me intrigued. I couldn't wait to see it. Right? It's kind of a match you never thought you'd see. One of those things, once it gets waved in front of your face, you're like, oh, I can't miss that. Both guys are rugged. Both guys seem like they would do well together. They're great on the mic. But the problem is, Revolution was very WCW-ish. And what do I mean by that? The undercard was great. Fast-paced action. Stories. Can't miss matches. Then you get to the main event. Slow. Somewhat boring. Somewhat overbooked. Cowardly, cheap win for Moxley. I didn't like Christian cashing in to be unsuccessful. Just didn't make sense. It just was almost a way to just keep Cope protected, right? He didn't have to eat the submission. He didn't have to eat the pin. Here, we'll just have it fall on Christian. I don't like that. I think Christian's contract could have been much better served. Whether that was him being the AEW World Champion in the end, or even failing in. Either way, fine. Just this was not the best use of it. You can't justify a fan being reeled into this story between Cope and Mox for months and months to just end it here, right? Because Swerve is the number one contender. He beat Ricochet. He's going to face Moxley for the title. Okay, what about Cope? Right? He had the match. He didn't get pinned. He didn't get submitted. Christian just stepped in, and he's the one that ate the submission. So I think there's still legs on that story. I know people are not dying to see the rematch. That was not either man's best match. I can acknowledge that right now. But I think the AEW Championship needs to have a straight story. It needs to have a clear direction. And I don't think it is right now. Because right now, is Swerve going to walk out? I assume that match is going to happen at Dynasty. Maybe that happens on Dynamite. But Swerve could easily be world champion. Again. Right? Like, he's one of the most over guys on the whole roster. Maybe the most over right now. If you put the title back on him, that's not a mistake. I bet you fans would be pretty happy. Because people are not into this Death Rider story. So I just don't like that Mox might lose the title to Swerve, given he didn't close that chapter. Again, Swerve can win the title. I'm more than happy to see that. I have no issues with Swerve being world champion again. I think he killed it the first time. His run could have been a little longer, but Danielson got his moment at All In. No issues. But the other problem within the AEW World Championship is it seemed like Darby Allin was being positioned to be the one to take the company back. Right? For AEW. You know, he's kind of the face of AEW in some ways. I mean, you could argue it's a couple other guys. But when you think of AEW, you kind of think of Darby Allin. He's one of the originals. It seemed like he was going to be the one to win the World Championship. Problem is, he's going to do Mount Everest. So he's gone from television for a couple months. That's an issue. I hate to say it. I get Darby has this thing he wants to accomplish in real life. Fine. But the problem is the story was setting up in a way where it looked like he was going to be the one to dethrone Moxley. Because if you remember, Darby already had the World Championship opportunity. He put it on the line against Moxley back at Grand Slam and lost to Moxley. So it made sense for it to all wrap back together, come full circle, for Darby to be the one to take the World Championship off of Moxley. But now that he's gone, that story's just lost steam. There's no luster on that. Yeah, he'll come back after he does the hike. But the problem is, that's just a couple more months of Mox as world champion that people just aren't into this time. I mean, Mox is a 4-time AEW champion. This is his worst reign. People do not want to see him carry this title for a couple more months. But I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe it is Darby still. Maybe they plan to just try to drop Darby back into story as soon as he's ready, and then we're still doing Darby versus Mox, let's say All In. Maybe that's still the plan. I just don't think it's going to have the same feel because Darby just disappeared for a few months. Because you got to think, within television, within the story, he just disappears. He's gone. He's not there helping AEW. He's not there fighting the Death Riders. There's just that disconnect. So with that being said, I'm kind of thinking Darby's not winning this World Championship anymore. It still could be the plan. I could be wrong. But I think everything's pointing to somebody else. Whether that is Swerve, maybe. I tend to think Ricochet's going to cost Swerve. If I'm being honest. They're kind of one apiece. I kind of think we're getting back to that. I don't think Swerve's done with Ricochet. I don't think Ricochet's done with Swerve. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they concluded that feud. I just don't see them going back to Swerve right now. Just something about it is making me think Swerve's not getting this world title back. So if that's not going to happen, who is it? I'm starting to think Eddie Kingston's a real possibility. I know it's far-fetched, but that could be their Mick Foley-esque moment. Eddie Kingston finally getting over the hill, winning a world championship from somebody like Moxley, former best friend. Perfect. I would do it. I really would. I would put the world title on Eddie Kingston when he's ready to return. Obviously, he's out right now with the injury, but I think he's got to be gearing up for a return here soon. I know he made a social media post kind of implying he's not coming back. I don't buy that. That's just smoke and mirrors as far as I'm concerned. I think he's coming back, and I do think when he's coming back, he's coming straight for the Death Riders. Now, speaking of the whole group, the Death Riders, you have to imagine if their whole thing is, this is our AEW now, this isn't yours, well, who are they taking it from? You have to start to think the Elite, right? That's where my mind goes. It's the Elite's AEW. That's what AEW was built on, was the back of the Elite. I would imagine Blood and Guts is going to be the Elite when they return, the Bucks more so when they return, whether that is teaming with Hangman and Omega or whatever variation they do. I do think we are going to get the Elite versus the Death Riders at Blood and Guts. I think that's kind of the long-term goal there. Now the question is, will Moxley still be world champion by then? Will those guys, the rest of the group, still have the trios titles? Claudio, Wheeler, Yuta, and Pac, will they still have the trios championships? I'm not entirely sure at this moment because I don't even know when the Young Bucks are going to come back to television. I would imagine they're going to be ready anytime now. And I do think that will be the Blood and Guts match. I think you can mark that down. I will be into that. What I'm not into is the World Championship scene. So again, I don't think the Death Riders are killing AEW. They're killing some people's interest in the world title scene, maybe. But AEW is tremendous right now. I know the ratings don't quite reflect that, whatever. That doesn't matter. If you're watching the product on a weekly basis, you would know Swerve's tremendous right now. MJF's always tremendous. Hangman's killing it. Ricochet is showing the best character work of his career. Omega's back. We're gearing towards Omega Okada. There's a lot of good happening. The Hurt Syndicate's killing it. You would imagine Cedric Alexander will probably be joining the group, right? He recently got released from WWE. I think he's going to join the group, fully reunite the Hurt business, maybe even take that to a next level. I think the mid-card title scene is tremendous right now. Omega, international champion. I can't wait to see the bangers he's going to put on. Okada, continental champion. I think those two are going to have a match to unify those titles at All In. But right now, I think they're killing it. Daniel Garcia, TNT champion. I think he's dropping it real soon, and I think that's going to Adam Cole. Adam Cole's been in AEW 3.5 years. He's yet to be a champion. I know he won the Owen Hart, but that's not a proper championship. That's just a tournament win. But he needs gold. I would imagine he's going to take the title off of Daniel Garcia within the next month. I think the titles are in perfect spot right now. Every championship, I would not change the winner. Every championship, I would not change the holder. Other than I do think Adam Cole needs the TNT title. And I do think Mox needs to drop the World Championship. That's why I don't think the Death Riders are actually killing AEW. Because everything else on the show is doing great. Tony Storm and Mariah May just had one of the best feuds of all time. And I know that seems crazy to say, but it's not. That is one of the best feuds I've ever seen. They absolutely killed it. If they wanted to main event Revolution, they wanted to put that on last, I would have had no issues with it. The perfect Hollywood ending. Those two ladies killed it the whole way, every step of the way. The TBS title on Mercedes kind of feels like it's on an island, kind of feels like its own thing. But whatever. I don't have an issue there. Mercedes is obviously being paid a lot of money. They want to keep a championship on her. It is kind of helping elevate some people, to mix it up with her in the ring. Fine. I'm not going to complain too much about that. I think they are on top of every championship right now, doing tremendous other than the World Championship. I think one thing the Death Riders could benefit from is having somebody join the group. Having somebody join the group. Let's freshen this up. Whether that is Jay White. That's a possibility. I think Jay White's killing it as a babyface, though. I wouldn't quite make that switch, but if you wanted to, that's okay. I do think he's more of a natural heel. So if you want to make that switch, no issues. But I think the Death Riders could use some shining up. I think they could use a new member. And I just want the World Championship on television. I'm sick of seeing it hidden in a briefcase. And to be honest with you, I don't even think that briefcase looks cool. At least shine that thing up. Put a cool design on that. The Death Riders logo. Something. But the World Championship should be present on your product. Now, with that being said, I do think whoever takes this title off of Moxley, the names I'd mentioned, Darby, Swerve, Eddie Kingston. The list could be even longer, right? If you wanted to say Hangman's going to have his full redemption and he's the one to do it, I could see that too. He's the main character of AEW, right? If he's the one to take the company back, take the championship back, that makes all the sense in the world. Mox and Hangman, they put on great matches together. He hasn't held the world championship in a couple years now. You want to do that? No problem. The thing I said about those 4 babyfaces, they're all super over. They're all tremendous babyfaces. But I do think whoever takes the world championship off of Moxley is going to go to a next level. Because people are going to celebrate it. And I would not be surprised to see the Death Riders disband following Blood and Guts. When they do go with the Elite. But if Hangman's the one to take the world championship off of Moxley, and we do get Hangman, Omega, and the Bucks versus the Death Riders at Blood and Guts, I think that's a perfect ending to the story of the Death Riders. But, with all that being said, the elephant in the room, Bryan Danielson. Right? After all, they turned on him. They attacked him. They put the bag on his head. Moxley took the world championship off of Danielson. You have to wonder, how does Danielson play into all of this? Do we see him following Moxley's world title reign? Does he win the world championship back from Moxley? You can't rule that out either. He's been gone off of television now for, 4 or 5 months? I know he's part-timing now, right? That's his thing. He retired from full-time action. Okay, well, it's been about 5 months now. You got to be gearing up, I would think. He's got to be coming soon. Maybe Danielson is the one to take the title off of Moxley. Maybe. Who says no to that? Because Danielson's run was too short. That's my honest opinion. I mean, he held the world championship for 2 months? I get he wanted to end his full-time career. But still, I think Danielson should have held that title for a little longer. I don't think anybody was ready for Mox to take that title. Maybe Danielson aligns with the Elite in Blood and Guts. Maybe it's not even the Elite versus the Death Riders. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just Danielson's team versus the Death Riders and he does some recruiting. And maybe he does get Eddie Kingston. Maybe he does get Darby. Maybe he does get Swerve. This could go any number of ways. I think that will be fun. I think that will be compelling. That's why I certainly don't think the Death Riders are killing AEW. I know some people think it. Some people will point to the ratings. The ratings do not tell you everything. If you watch Dynamite, if you watch Collision, the stories are there. The matches are there. AEW is alive and well. I don't care what those ratings say. That does not tell the full story. But I do think AEW will benefit from taking the World Championship off of Moxley. And I do think AEW will benefit from taking those Trios titles off of Pac, Claudio, and Wheeler Yuta. Because the Trios Championships are the most irrelevant they have ever been since their existence. There needs to be a conversation about disbanding the Trios titles. In theory, they're great. They're fun. They can create good matches, fun matches, exciting matches, and we get a mix-up of teams that we didn't think we would see. Right? Samoa Joe, Hook, Shibata. You would imagine they're gearing up for the Trios titles at some point. But I do think the Trios titles are taken away from the tag division, and the tag division is taken away from the Trios title. It's kind of hard to build both divisions at the same time. If they're going to continue to have these Trios titles, they need to have the conversation, how do we make both things work? Because right now, it's certainly not working. So once these Death Riders lose all the championships, I think that will be what's best for AEW. But they are certainly not killing it. I don't think people are uninterested in the Death Riders. I think they just don't want the Death Riders to be carrying the championship gold. Because those guys are all tremendous wrestlers. Mox is tremendous. Pac is one of the best guys on the roster. Claudio, not much needs to be said there. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world. Wheeler Yuta, he's up and coming. Of course, he's he's still young in his career, but he is ahead of his time. He is killing it right now. Being around these guys has really elevated him. He's still got a long way to go. He's nowhere near being a world champion. But fitting in with this group, with this faction, it's doing wonders for his career. These guys are all great wrestlers. These guys can all tell great stories. I don't think the Death Riders themselves is the issue. I think the Death Riders carrying championship gold right now in this current version, this current form, is the issue. Guys, thanks for watching. Let me know, am I wrong? Do you want to see the Death Riders be done? Do you think they're hurting AEW? Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.